Just received this in the post. This is a short story I've just had published about an event that happened, true story, about 23 years ago. Apart from the first line, it's all true. First line is hyperbole. And if you don't know what hyperbole is, as I used to tell my students, I've told you a million times. It's called On Llamas and Feng Shui. I was in a dead relationship, so I did the decent, honourable thing. I ran away. So you see, what you must always do, is close the toilet lid. Respecting the principles of Feng Shui, it's essential that you understand that this corner of the house is the money corner. If you don't close the toilet lid, the money is lost down the bowl. This is Ulf, the deeply strange German hippie whose house I'm living in. We are both standing in the bathroom looking at the toilet. Is this metaphorical money or real money? I reply, deliberately obtuse. Sadly, Ulf has no sense of humour whatsoever. He doesn't do irony nor sarcasm. What he does do, though, is humourless, constant preaching and patronising. And yet, despite this, I like and admire him. I admire his stubborn sense of purpose, something I sorely lack. He frowns. What is metaphorical money? I've lost all interest already. It doesn't matter. And it really doesn't matter. Thing is, I have nowhere else to go and I'm in the middle of nowhere. So nowhere it is then. I'm on a llama farm in a place called Tarkaka in an area called Golden Bay on the northern tip of the southern island of New Zealand. It is a staggeringly beautiful place. Some days I couldn't care less. Some days I am overwhelmed. One faint long distance phone call from London 3 weeks ago and here I am. It was rash, impulsive behaviour, even by my standards. In the mornings, I rise early with the sun, walk to my organic patch of ground, a beautiful 2-minute stroll from the house, and begin work. Once there, I turn on my tiny radio, tune it to News Talk ZB, and balance it carefully between the stalk and leaf of one of the giant sunflowers. The reception is better off the ground. I set to work turning over the soil. Once a small area of soil, say a square metre, has been turned over, I get down on my hands and knees and begin to pick out the weeds. I am careful when I do this, mindful not to disturb any tiny creatures. The top few centimetres of soil are where all the good organic action is. Orla told me this when she first took me to the patch and explained what I had to do. Orla is Ulf's wife, but she is not German, she is a Kiwi. She too is a hippie, but a pleasant one. They have invested all their money in a llama farm. They plan to breed them and use them for llama trekking along the nearby beach and through the woods. I work on my organic patch every morning for 4 hours and I'm extremely happy and content doing this. In return for this, I get a room and food. In the house are Ulf and Orla, their 2 children, a puppy and a ferret. In the evening we play guitar, drink wine and let the ferret out of its cage. We're all barefoot at this time, by this stage, and the ferret skips and skitters around the kitchen, arching its back and continually nipping at her toes with small, sharp teeth. Things could be a lot worse. Recently, on the way to work, I started to take a short detour to visit the llamas. They are, on the whole, curious, pleasant, placid creatures, but foolish looking. This means I don't take them as seriously as I feel I should. There is one that looks uncannily like Ringo Starr in Help era Beatles, complete with fringe and baffled expression. We have taken a bit of a shine to each other and he comes over to inspect me when I visit. It amuses me to greet him with "all right" in a broad Scouse accent. Ringo blinks at me from under his fringe, perplexed. In the corner of this field, in her own hut, is the heavily pregnant golden llama. I call her this because she is the creature that Ulf and Orla have pinned their emotional and financial hopes on. She's not actually called the golden llama, but I've imbued her with a quasi-mythological status. She is of the highest pedigree and has been bred with llamas of similar status. So they will produce young llamas that are thoroughbred and will make more money. Ulf explained all this to me the other night, but went into so much detail, genetic variation, DNA, hereditary traits, that I became confused and lost interest, nodding at what I hoped were appropriate moments. This morning, on the Organic Patch, I am listening to a particularly interesting radio programme. They are interviewing a woman who is about to become the youngest person to sail solo around the world. She's from a small town not far from where I grew up. Her voice, her accent, is enormously comforting. I stop to listen, a faint breeze stirs. I take a pull from my water bottle. I return to the soil and am soon aware of a figure approaching. Normally, I work alone for 4 hours, speaking to no one, just me, the soil, my thoughts. Ola approaches. She's out of breath, looks frightened. Quick, come back to the house, something has happened. I throw down my spade and we walk urgently, silently back. Ulf is waiting. He looks grim, serious. It's the llama, he says. She's dead, the baby too. For a moment, I'm confused and say nothing, so I nod. This idyll, this dream, their dream has collapsed in a moment. Ulf looks at me again. This strong, strange, proud man looks at me pleadingly like a small child, and it's heartbreaking. Under a vast black sky, we drag the swollen body of the beast to the far corner of the field. Trailing from the bloodied gash of its birth canal is a broad skein of afterbirth and fetus. The beast is heavy, the task is grim, and we are silent. Predictably, almost comically, it begins to rain. Ulf is holding its head, Ola its front legs, me its back legs. There seems to be no precedent for this, no accepted way to drag a dead llama and child across a field with any sort of dignity, either for us or for it. It is a wretched, joyless task. I am at the end with all the mess. My hands begin to slip as they become increasingly coated with blood and afterbirth. I keep losing my grip, the legs sliding effortlessly through my fingers. I am struggling with this, with every part of it. Ulf notices. We take a short break. No one speaks. I raise my arm, wipe my forehead with my sleeve. Ulf nods. We continue. We reach the far corner of the field where Ulf has decided the llama and child will be buried. I look up at the sky, down at the bodies, and realise that there is a terrible, terrible beauty to all of this. The moment feels strangely epiphanal. In this moment of death, I feel more alive than I have ever felt. It's as if these past moments, months of misery have coalesced into this single bloody episode, and perhaps, I reflect, it will prove cathartic. Perhaps, in order to live fully, we need death. A fully grown llama can be 6 feet in height and length, can weigh up to 30 stones. It takes a full 2 hours to dig a hole for the llama and child. Ulf hands shovels to Ola and me, and we begin to dig. Ulf has carefully marked out with stones an area of 10 feet square. The rain increases, and to begin with, the soil is soft and rich. We dig a shovel's depth down, throw the soil outside the marked area, and continue. After 30 minutes, we have dug a hole, a 10 feet square hole, but it's shallow, barely a foot in depth. As we dig deeper, we hit rocks and stones. I have never dug a hole this size before, and I know that under any other circumstances, I would be moaning, complaining, and making a fuss. Ola and I stop occasionally to stretch and take water. We look at each other and smile sadly. Ulf doesn't stop at all. We walk back home across the muddy field, our backs bent, our legs weary, and our arms bloodied and aching. The rain stops, the sun comes out, and a rainbow appears. I look up into the sky and want to howl and cry like I've never howled and cried before. The job is finished and we return. And a single thought accompanies me on our sad, silent walk home. Perhaps, just perhaps, I should have closed the toilet lid. Thank you for listening.